All right. We're just going to give people a little bit of time to get into the room and get us started. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. We can see very familiar names and faces. So thank you. It's just going to take a couple of minutes for others to join the call. Yes. All right, shall we, team? Okay, vamos. Yeah. All right, so thank you all very much. We are here together, myself, Ana Tevis, Academic Director of Human Capital Management Program, and my fellow leader on this trip, and actually Buenos Aires native, is Sergio. Sergio, say hello from where you are. And you're in Buenos Aires right now.
Yeah, I'm still in Buenos Aires. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining this interesting and, growing experience we had and we want to share with everyone.
Fantastic. And then, okay, so let's, and the team, Jessica and Kelly, we're going to have your pictures there as well, but just say hello for getting us started. Yeah, Jessica and Kelly. All right, so for those of you who have never taken this trip, we are showing it what the flight is. The flight is actually pretty straightforward, drop down south from JFK to Buenos Aires. But it takes quite a bit of time. The good news there is pretty much no time change, just 1 hour. But it takes 13 hours to get us down there. And the whole idea of the trip and the mission on which we went came out of the class that Sergio was teaching in the HCAT program, Human Capital Analytics and Technology. All right, and this is the map of the areas, barrios in Buenos Aires, and what we are going to talk to you about, who we are, why we went, and lessons learned, and most importantly, what we can take from here to the experience of being at NYU. All right. So we already introduced ourselves, Sergio and myself. And Sergio, maybe you can say a few words about your background and what you're teaching for us.
Yes, I am. My background is in computer science. I am data scientist. I was focused the last 7 years in everything what is blockchain and AI. I'm a consultant. I'm a professor. I'm a researcher on everything that is related to smart cities. And I teach intelligent automation at NYU. That's where we started, or this adventure started from, because we had someone from the government of Buenos Aires. You all know that Buenos Aires is considered probably one of the is one of the first in the rankings of smart cities. And we start talking about digitalization, and everything that BA is doing to have a better communication with their citizens, to have a better transportation. And the goal is having a way to connect points. You can go anywhere in the city from point A to point B in less than an hour. So you have a very good transportation network, and everything is or can be done through your phone, right? So we started from there, and we started a project with some students. Some of them are here. Trying to map the opportunities we have in Buenos Aires, everything that they did in order to probably create synergies with other cities. So that's how everything started, and we finally traveled to Buenos Aires.
Yeah. So we decided to try it out in the real space, not just to learn about it in the classroom. Fantastic. So next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica. I am an HCAT alum, class of 2022, and I serve as the Director of People, Culture, and Communities at a nonprofit. And fun fact, this was the first Latin American country that I had visited since, or besides Colombia. So
Fantastic. Kelly.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. My name is Kelly Collier-Brown. I'm also a recent alum, Human Capital Analytics and Technology, class of 22. I am also the university's Associate Director of OEO Accommodations and the Accommodations Coordinator. So happy to be with you all today. And it's been such a great experience. We're excited to share it with you.
And both of you were involved in a project that Sergio was teaching in the classroom. So that's how it came together. And we also have to give credit to Nick, who is a fellow HCAT alumnus, who gave you the idea of actually going down there in person, right? Okay. All right. So next.
Mona Lisa too.
And
Yes.
Mona Lisa as
Nick,
well.
Mona, Melanie, Mariami, we're so happy to be partnering with our fellow alum on this great project.
All right, fantastic. So our great appreciation goes to the following people. First of all, the team, and we're going to show you the pictures, and I see Dr. Anna Stahl is on the call today, who hosted us at the NYU site in Buenos Aires. Thank you so much for your hospitality. We were just absolutely blown away with the opportunities that that site allows. To Dean Karen Krahulek, who was instrumental in making the right connections for us. And Kelly, Office of the Provost. Kelly actually was able to get a grant from the Office of the Provost to fund the trip down to Buenos Aires. Sergio, government of the city of Buenos Aires, who were also hosting us, specifically Diego Fernandez, Secretary of Innovation and Digital Transformation, and Benjamin Graff, Head of Communications, and Diego is going to join us in a few minutes. And a few people on the ground from Fundación Punta Gov, Sabrina Diaz-Rato, and Mariana Burgess, as well as the team Nubiral and a few universities in Buenos Aires. So we're going to show you what we've seen and what we've done connecting with all of those wonderful people. So the other aspect of this trip was definitely the opportunity for us. I co-authored a book on humans at work, and took a trip down there with my books, with a whole bag of books to give out to people and share. And that was also an opportunity to connect to the local HR community, to various organizations and universities where they teach HR, and have those incredible conversations on the ground. So you see a few pictures from our trip. Okay, next. Sergio, do you want to comment here on what we've done?
Yes, it was a very intense week. We did a lot of talks, conference meetings, and particularly talking about HR. We met with people from Bench Club, that is a group of HR leads in leaders in Latin America that is started in Argentina and then scaled across Latin America and the US. And we share some best practices about what we are doing, what they are doing, how pandemic was managed in Argentina and Latin America, and different type of challenges we are having with things that we talk frequently about: great attrition, with the deficit, how hard is to find and keep the right talent, and particularly talking about tech industries. As you know, Buenos Aires is one of the probably smart cities, and everything is, or the biggest startups are related to the tech industries, not just for Latin American operation, but also the multinational come to Buenos Aires to grab the best talent. We know that Buenos Aires has this triple helix that we talk many times, that is academia, public sector, and the enterprises. So we met with different leaders from HR. Anna gave some talks in some public and private universities, and also was recognized, as we see there on the bottom left, but before visiting the UBA. UBA is the public university, is one of the best universities in Latin America. And the interesting part of this is that we went there after many talks at 10 p.m. and the students were there waiting for Anna to give this talk. I was commenting that, or we were talking that they weren't, they didn't need to be there. They were there because they wanted, and that is something interesting that we found, and it's still surprising. Even me, that I grew up in Argentina, I was never expecting something like this. And what's interesting, right? The contrast that we found between public and private universities, right?
Yes, yeah, it was very heartwarming to see so much interest in the best practices, in the focus on people. There's definitely a lot of affinity between how leaders want, especially leaders of people of HR in Latin America, how they want to lead, and how we think organizations need to be run here as well. Jessica, Kelly, anything here?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see the timeline slide as well. It was just really interesting to see, again, just enforcing that knowledge sharing, and just hearing some of the highlights that you mentioned in Humans at Work, and like the concept of organizational network analysis, and just seeing the students being receptive to that and being like, oh, wow, like let's explore more of that. And that was really interesting to dive deeper into.
Excellent, thank you. Next. Yeah, and then we had a phenomenal reception at Sergio's company, Nubiral, very innovative tech startup, and I would say very little difference between what you would find here and there. It was incredible. And as rocking innovation here, tagline is really how it felt, being in that very dynamic environment. Yeah. Lots of mate. We were drinking lots of mate there too. Okay.
Yeah, I love seeing you guys how you embraced the local culture, drinking mate. That is actually something that it's like a tea where you pour water and you keep drinking on the same mug. You all drank mate. Fernet is a local bitter, beverage.
Yeah,
So
Kelly brought back a 10-pound bag and
yeah, so, excellent. Yeah, next. So this is a little bit of the timeline of the events of that just a few days that we attended and went to. We kicked off again, the advantage of not having a jet lag is you just, even though it's a long trip, you come in and you are just on the same time zone. So we were welcomed at the Women in Tech dinner, talking to women in women entrepreneurs, as well as women in tech management sort of companies and the government sector. But it was fascinating to hear how women see themselves in Argentinian society and what role they play, and specifically in the tech sector. So that was amazing. As you can see, a luncheon with HR leaders, as well as visit to the startup Nuberal with Sergio. And the highlight, of course, here down the slide is the visit to NYU Buenos Aires site. Maybe Jessica and Kelly, do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, and just a little bit before, like just looking at the slide makes me chuckle because when we first signed on to this project, we were like, oh yeah, we'll have like 1 or 2 meetings. I'll translate a document, easy peasy. And then Professor Sergio shares this, the most robust agenda that I had ever seen in my life. And just meeting after meeting, it just made us more excited, and who we were going to meet and get to visit and see. And NYU Buenos Aires was just one of those. We got to meet, as you saw earlier, Dr. Ana Stahl and Dr. Jorgelina Loza and Daniela Swift, who is now my BA BFF, and just chatting about the possible opportunities between SPS and NYU BA was just incredible.
Absolutely. So to echo that and add on to it a little bit, you'll see on here, we not tried to integrate, but this is just a small sample of the meetings and events that we went to. And as Sergio mentioned, we weren't just there for the business aspect, but also to take in the culture, to get to know the people, to understand what it is like to live and work in Buenos Aires and what it is like to live and work in an emerging smart city. And so to go to UBA and UARE and to see how engaged the students are, they, along with we, are the future HR leaders, and to be in this global context, to see how people are engaged and looking to learn. I will tell you honestly, Dr. Ana was absolutely a rock star in Buenos Aires. People were stopping her on the street, asking for photos and selfies. People responded so well to her talks, to the information that's in the book written by her and Stella Lubashore. And I think it really is reflective of how hungry people are to engage in these dialogues about the future of work, and how hungry people are to be more strategic. And there really is a global shift happening from being tactile and technical to being more strategic. And so to engage in these conversations and see how how excited people are was really a thrill for us. And we didn't just work, as I mentioned, we engaged in the culture. So we got to go to tango at Salon Canning. We also saw a really amazing concert by a band called Tres Sauces. So you'll see some of a photo of them shortly. Jess and I, kind of memorialize things differently. I'm very visual. She kept a really beautiful journal and written record of our trip. But I'm visual, so most of the photos that you'll see today, I did take. So I hope that you enjoy them.
Yes, that was amazing. Incredible to have Kelly with us with her professional camera. We felt like we have a paparazzi with us, but it also helps capturing. It helps to capture all of the moments that now looking back seem so meaningful, to us, even though we were kind of flying from one event to the next, and but meeting so many people. All right, the next one.
So I think are we waiting for Diego? So we can either, I think we can move on to the alumni perspective. We can share a little bit, but I'll also invite, if any of you have any questions, comments, please share. You can drop them in the chat or in the Q&A. Jess, can you just do a quick check and see if we have any questions pending?
Sure. Yeah. And then I can also just add on, it's not on here because we were so engaged in that first day, and it felt like after 70, like it felt like a 72-hour flight, and we just went into a meeting. But just getting to meet Mariana and Sabrina from Fundación.gov and just learning about the work that they're doing, it's a foundation that works to help individuals become more knowledgeable in crypto and other initiatives working center on gaining visibility for women in the blockchain industry. So just setting the tone for that and learning about how prominent that is in the Latin American community was so important for me. So that was just another highlight that I wanted to share.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah. Diego is a little bit delayed. So let's take the next topic.
Yeah. So if it's okay with all of you, Jess and I are going to share a little bit about why we went on the trip, what we have gotten out of it, and what we hope to continue to build on. And so as recent alum, when this opportunity became available, we jumped on it. We were so excited. A lot of this came out of conversations that started in the classroom. And so Diego Fernandez, who we're going to meet shortly, was such a phenomenal speaker. When he came to our intelligent automation class, we started ideating immediately. He was still presenting, and we were already talking about, we'd love to write a use case, and we want to know more about these systems that he's built. There's this really beautiful chatbot called Boti BA, and hopefully he talks about that a little bit. But not just with regard to the class, but with regard to the with the HCAP program in totality, we are so encouraged to ideate, to engage, to network, and to explore these ideas. And I think that's what I really got out of the program. It's been so enriching for me, and I'm really excited for the future of my career. And so when this opportunity came about, we really wanted to pursue it. And so we went to Buenos Aires with 3 key goals. So one, we wanted to develop and expand our global network of innovative HR practitioners and thought leaders. As you all are aware or becoming aware, we are an increasingly global economy, right? And so it's really essential for us to understand not just how does work in the US, but how does it work in a global context? How does culture influence the way that people work and the way that people engage with technology? And how do we create those relationships? 2, we wanted to actively research trends and opportunities for workforce development in smart cities. Sergio gave us a really great definition of smart cities. And as we got a better understanding of what smart cities are and emerging smart cities, Dr. Tavis's book came out, and we started engaging these really fantastic conversations about the future of work. And so understanding what will workforce development look like in smart cities. And so our plan is, along with Jessica and I, along with some of our fellow alum, many of whom are on the call today, are hoping to write a series of papers where we're going to be exploring these topics. And so we are going to be exploring what is infrastructure in smart and emerging cities, and emerging smart cities. What will policy look like, or what does policy look like? And then also, again, these cultural implications. We're really lucky in that because of the nature of the program and the nature of our cohort, we're already so diverse. Right. And so Jessica has had some, she's Colombiana, and so she has some familiarity with Latin America. Also, our colleague, Mona, has lived in Singapore and has familiarity with what it is like to live and work in Singapore. And then of course, I live and work in New York along with many of our other colleagues, and Dr. Anna and our esteemed dean are doing some really phenomenal work with the mayor's office. And so any way that we can continue to support them, we're happy to do so. Speaking of supporting them on an ongoing basis, we really are committed to deepening and expanding our relationships with NYU, SPS, and fellow alum. We're in this transition period where we're not students anymore, but we want to maintain our relationship with the university. And so what does that look like for us? How can we continue to contribute to this school, to this university that has given us so much? And so it's really fantastic for us to maintain a relationship with our fellow alum. Our cohort's so tight, and everybody's so smart and so talented. And so we are continually looking for ways to continue partnering with each other. Also, a little shout out to Jess, who was our representative at graduation and got to carry our flag into Yankee Stadium. So congratulations to her. And graduation was not that long ago, but you know, we continue to learn, and hopefully we'll continue to learn lifelong.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so one of the things that we definitely wanted to lean into, as Kelly brilliantly summed up, is just deepening those relationships, and that's certainly a weakness that I have, which is network building. So it was so inspiring to see how well connected Professor Sergio and Dr. Anna are, and how they continue to maintain and deepen the connections they have, but most importantly, sharing the wealth of knowledge they possess with anyone that is willing and interested to learn. And while I'm still working on network building, I have been keeping up with some folks that I've met there. You know, just taking those lessons of knowledge sharing within my own organization, with the HR professionals in country offices that don't have that type of access and resources that we have in the States and Buenos Aires, and other countries who are much further along in their digital transformation. So, you know, thinking about how we can support each other in this community, in these countries, you know, what are we doing to make sure that other countries aren't left behind? And you know, that's why organizations like Fundación.gov are so important, because they do provide access not just to folks in Argentina, but individuals in all of Latin America and and across the globe. So that's just something that really stuck with me. And I'm not sure if there's anything else that anyone else wanted to add.
So we have a question from David Lipsky, Professor Lipsky. And the question is, did you discover any differences of what people want from their work experience in Argentina vis-a-vis the US? So what would be the differences between what we've heard from people in Argentina and here? You know, I will get started by saying, you know, definitely one thing that was top of mind, it was interesting because it was a topic both here and in Argentina, was the inflation, right? The inflation and how it's being managed. And I think if we were to look anywhere, even from the HR perspective, for lessons learned on how to manage an inflation, we can actually learn a lot from Argentina because they've been living in this environment for quite some time. And I can add a few more aspects of, you know, addressing the challenges and opportunities, but I see that Diego is with us. And since he's a representative of our government of Buenos Aires, we really respect his time. And I want to jump into Diego now, if we can, please.
Absolutely.
Hi, Anna. Thank you very much. I see that my camera is not connected, and this Zoom version that and I'm not getting the way of. I think that you need to
go ahead.
Allow.
Yeah.
No, I think that you need to to request me to allow my camera to work.
Yeah, we're going to get your camera going. Sergio, do you want to give an introduction while Tim works on that?
Yes, sure. First, I met Diego working for my PhD, specializing in smart cities, and I found, interestingly, that Buenos Aires is one of the most intelligent, we can say, cities, not just in Latin America, but in the world, particularly talking about how we treat, how they treat the garbage, everything that is related to sustainability, and also everything that is related to inclusive urbanization, right? And I found that Diego was, before having this role, had a role working on, I wish he can probably elaborate more about that, on urbanization of settlement that we have in Buenos Aires. You know, that big cities have these issues that people are coming to the big cities, and you know, it's expected by 2050, I think that is, I don't have the number in my head, but it's around between 70 and let's say 2/3 of the global population is going to be living in big cities. So that has a huge implication related to the quality of life of people, the quality of how companies can perform, and how, talking about HR, how we can capture and retain the best talent in town, right? And one of the biggest challenges that cities have is having poor settlements in the cities, not just around the cities. So that is happening in not just in Latin America, but also Asia, and also in the big cities in Europe and the US. So Diego was in charge of urbanizing this big settlement, and then he took the responsibility of digital secretary of digital innovation and digital transformation. And I found one of the biggest projects that they did was allowing the cities, I wish Diego had more time to elaborate more this, but allowing the government to have a better communication to the city to the citizens through WhatsApp. You know that WhatsApp is in Latin America one of the tools or the channels with the biggest adoption. You know, the penetration of WhatsApp is around 80% because you don't need a smartphone to use WhatsApp. You can use WhatsApp with an old phone, and you can connect. Even my mother uses WhatsApp. So they created a chatbot, intelligent chatbot that you can have conversation with. Actually, I'm going to paste the number here, so you can try it. It's, of course, it's in Spanish, but he was in charge of this. He was in charge of managing the pandemic and everything that is related to blockchain and digital ID. I wish you didn't have time now to elaborate more about these three things, right? The digital culture that Buenos Aires adapted related to smart cities, everything that is the digital ID, that is the project that you are probably exporting to the rest of Latin America, and also the urbanization and inclusion of the citizens. Are you okay now to talk, or you still need permissions?
I think I'm okay now.
We can
right?
see you now. Yeah, we can see you now.
That's great. That's great. Thank you very much, Sergio and Anna, for the invitation and your really kind introduction. I would like to give my opinion on the three subjects that you mentioned, and I would like to start with my former job, which was being the Secretary of Integration, and what we did in the integration of one of the biggest slums in Buenos Aires. Just a quick overview on slum situation in Buenos Aires and in the world. Today in Buenos Aires, we have 3 million inhabitants with a 7 million daily population. What do I mean by daily population? That nearly 4 million people commute every day to work in the city, and they sleep outside the city. So we're a 3 million city, which has an infrastructure to support 7 million citizens during daytime. Of that 3 million population, almost 300,000 live in slums. And the slum I dealt with, which is one of the two biggest ones, and perhaps the most emblematic because it's situated in the most sort of iconic and the most upscale part of Buenos Aires, is Barrio 31. When we speak about, sorry, let me give you an overview on a worldwide perspective. Out of the 4.4 billion people living in cities, almost 1.1 billion people live in settlements. What do I mean by settlements? They don't hold the land tenure and they don't have public services. If they don't have those two things, we can say that is a settlement. This is a worldwide problem. It's not of the city of Buenos Aires. In the region, Latin America, which is a highly urbanized region, the highest urbanized region in the world. This is, as I mentioned before, it's a worldwide problem. And the question is, and it's growing, it's growing. The projections of the UN tell us that by 2020, we will have almost 6.5 billion people living in cities and almost 3 billion living in settlements. And why is that happening? That is happening because 80% of the world GDP is generated in cities. So people go to where they can make money, where they can earn a salary. And that is happening today and for the last several decades in the cities. And the problem is that all of that demand for living in the city has no sustainable offer, has no affordable housing ready to provide that offering. So when we deal with the informal settlements issue, we need to think of two realities: the stock and the flux. With the stock, we need to do in the different approaches that we may have projects of integration, of urban integration, as the one we did in Barrio 31, which I'm happy to say that was pretty successful. Successful in the way that we can measure a project of this scale in 6 years. The really success would be in the next 20 years to see these properties keep on being formal, and the kids and living in that settlement start to get better education and start to get better jobs. But up to this moment, the transformation has been huge, and we're pretty happy where we're standing. So with the stock, we need to come up with integration, the urban integration process. The relocation of citizens from one place to another doesn't work. And that was tested for at least 3 decades, and it was a complete failure every time that humanity tried that strategy. So we need to, what we call, re-urbanize or integrate those settlements into the cities. But we need to come up with a solution for the flux of people coming to the cities which do not have an affordable housing alternative in which to live. Because if we don't, settlements will get duplicated or triplicated in the next 30 years. So to be honest, that is something that is not yet resolved. I won't get into details, but within Barrio 31, we're testing, I won't say a solution, but a type of method to increase this problem, to decrease this problem, sorry. But I think that there is a human and a global problem, and we need to keep on working on how do we ensure that that citizens coming to live in cities have affordable housing available. So that is about my experience in the Barrio 31, and please let me extend an invitation to anyone who comes to visit our lovely city of Buenos Aires. You just give me a call, and I will be more than happy to show you around and walk you through Barrio 31 so that you may see by yourselves the transformation and how Barrio 31 is today. I'm really proud of it. The second point that you mentioned, Sergio, was the way that we decided, or I visited Medellin in Colombia. We partner with the government of Medellin and all. Yeah, of course, Melanie. I would say 4 times in Medellin, speaking with the guys responsible for what is Comuna 3 in Medellin. And actually what we did is I spent with a team, with my team, I would say nearly 1.5 years defining what would be the approach that we will implement in Barrio 31. And we took several learnings from Medellin, just to mention a few. All of the participatory models that they implemented, we took them as a extremely good way of dealing with that issue. We loved and we definitely went through what they call urban acupuncture. I don't know if that's the correct word in English. Sorry, I speak English as a second language. But what they did is it's called garden libraries. Garden libraries are huge, very modern, highly, decorated and very, very nice public buildings in the middle of urban settlements. And the reasoning behind that is when you put this piece of beautiful infrastructure, which is open to the community in the middle of a settlement, that piece of infrastructure starts to get everything around it better. It gives new possibilities, it gives newcomers, it attracts people. And we did precisely that in the middle of the Barrio 31, among several other things, but maybe the most iconic one is we built the Ministry of Education of the city of Buenos Aires with a K-5 and a K-12 school next to it. And we built a really high-tech, ultra-sophisticated building. We did it with a $42 million credit that the IDB, the Inter-American Development Bank, gave us. And if today you go through the highway that goes through Barrio 31, you see this amazing building, which is the Ministry of Education. And it was both a political sign and a social sign. I mean, in slums, you have an environment that, we do have an educational issue. I mean, the success rate of kids in school in slums is much lower than in the formal city. So we placed the Ministry of Education and a school in where the situation is most critical. And honestly, that changed everything around the Ministry of Education. Shops started to get open. Why? Because 2,000 people go and work there every day. So shops started appearing, groceries, because I mean the local citizens of the Barrio 31 want to sell things to people coming and going to the restaurants, coming and going to the minister. So we took that from medicine, among several other things, and we also learned from things that were done in Peru, in Rosario, in Argentina, in Brazil, and we learned a lot from things that were done badly, I mean, or with a bad result. I won't mention those cases because of an ethic perspective, but I think there is much more to learn. Yeah. Sorry,
this is respectful, but can we wrap up the digital part of the?
Yeah, sorry.
I would love to give people at least 10-15 minutes for question Q&A, and I bet perfect. They have many questions for you. Let's talk about digital ID, Tango ID, and Boti, and how you guys are communicating with your citizens, right?
That's right. I mean, perfect. Thank you for helping me summarizing. So Boti. Boti is a chatbot. It's an automated chatbot which relies on AI, and as Sergio mentioned, it works in WhatsApp, but it also works in Telegram. It works on a web chat. It works on Facebook chat. So 99% of its use in Buenos Aires is with WhatsApp. But the reasoning behind Boti, when we created it in 2019, was to start to give citizens a way of communicating with the government, which is different and more natural than the one that they usually use. Today, before Boti, you have basically 3 ways of communicating with the government. First, you went to First, you could go to a public office. Second, you could call the 147, which is sort of the government line, or you can use the website. And those 3 alternatives, and of course the website is pretty easy to use and whatsoever, but giving the ability to give citizens the ability to communicate using their regular communication device, a regular chat alternative, was pretty simple for citizens. For example, hey, may I park my car here? And Boti says, send me your location. You send your location, say, yes, you can. No, you can't. Or you can in this time slots. And that started to become more useful. But the real thing happened when COVID appeared, because when COVID appeared, government, of course, as many other governments in the world, we had these lockdowns, offices were closed, and people still needed to get in touch with government for different issues, for example, tests and vaccination. So we started running to sort of ramp up Boti to deal with the COVID crisis. And the success was really, we're pretty happy about it. The success was immense because Boti became sort of the main way of communicating of all society with the government. Just to give you a simple idea, in the first quarter of 2020, we had 1 million conversations. In the first quarter of 2022, we had 26 million conversations. I'm proud to say we are in this very moment the chatbot with the biggest traffic in the world, according to Meta, to the company that owns WhatsApp. And body is, sometimes the conversation and the conversation flow in body gets so intense that we even start off messing with the WhatsApp software, because the WhatsApp server supports 400 conversations per second. And in several moments of, I don't know, in January, we had this sort of extreme Omicron wave, or we use body, for example, for giving out free tickets for a public concert. We surpassed that limit and the WhatsApp server comes down, and we're working with Meta to fix that. But body became really today the main way for citizens to communicate with government, and it has several advantages. As I mentioned before, it's completely natural because you chat with body as you would chat with a friend. Body has a personality. If you ask body for a joke, he tells a joke. If you say, body, I love you, body say, I love you too. And you can have a conversation with, of course, with a chatbot, but we invest a great deal of time in building body's personality to sort of enhance the user experience the same way you would do with graphic design in a website. So that is basically the body part and what do we. And sorry. One further advantage is that technology usually poses a barrier with certain types of population. For example, the elderly, which are not familiarized with technology and do not understand websites or are afraid of or do not know how to download apps, or the people who are, in the most sort of subdued neighborhoods, maybe they don't have access to data, to 4G or 5G networks. The advantage that body gives you is that everybody in Buenos Aires, for example, even if you don't have your cellular data plan available, you can use WhatsApp. And everybody from, a teenager to my mother, who's 83 years old, understand WhatsApp because they use it every day for communicating with everybody. So it's pretty easy. It poses no technological barriers. The implementation of new features is really dynamic, and it takes very little effort to do that. Of course, we need to do some programming and things, but it's very effective. And Sergio, let me contradict what you said before. Body now speaks English. Just, something like 2 months ago. Yeah. Something like 2 months ago, we opened a tourist service for tourists in Body, and Body now speaks in English and in Portuguese with everything related to directions, where to go, places to visit, tourist instructions. We use Body a lot in museums, so you can scan a QR code and Body shares with you information about, a painting or a sculpture or whatever. So now Body speaks in English. That's a very good question.
So before we go to Q&A, Jesse and Kelly, can you explain what you guys are doing with Diego and the research project you are working on?
Absolutely. So I touched on it a little bit before, and actually I'm going to explain, but I also just want to give a plug for the program. What you just heard is what is so unique about SPS and about the HCAT program, to have the opportunity to have dialogue, to listen to decision makers, and have this direct contact. This is not an experience that you're going to have in every program. So we really appreciate you, Diego, and your time. We appreciate you, Dr. Tavis, for creating this program and making these opportunities available to us. And so, I touched on it a little bit earlier, but what we are looking to do is to essentially assess, right, and understand what is happening in existing and emerging smart cities, including New York City, right? Buenos Aires is doing phenomenal work. We want to understand and learn from the best practices, what is going well, what is not going well, you know, what can and should be implemented in New York, and what can and cannot. And so, and in addition to that, we learn by doing. And so we want to share our learnings, our research with Diego, with the city of Buenos Aires, to help them in any way that we can, right? He's been so generous with his time. The team and the city government have been so generous with us that we want to be good global citizens and give back in any way that we can. And so we are looking forward to continuing this research, to continuing this dialogue, and hopefully by this time next year, we'll have a good, nice series of papers for you all to read and give us some feedback on, focusing on governance, on infrastructure, and on culture. Jesse, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, just very quickly, I think, and above all, just making sure, you know, for far too long, Latin American BIPOC voices have been, you know, underwhelming in the conversation of technology and smart cities. And it's so important that our voices are contributing to these conversations, that we are helping to drive this innovation. And that's why this trip was just so meaningful for me, because it was the first time that I had exposure and didn't even know that there was so much that was already going on, and that was everything for me.
And I also want to build on the question from Dr. Lipsky about, you know, the differences and what we've learned. And I would say we probably learned a lot more than by being there in person than they learned from us, because we were just talking about, you know, best practices, etc. But to actually, I mean, what Diego has done is incredible. You know, in terms of our own experience of the smart city, you know, their public transportation system is incredible and working well. And the trains are running on time, clean, and very well coordinated. And with this, the city being digitally connected, and now we have even an English version and Portuguese version of the questions, you know, it's very easy to orient yourself in that city. And I think we can learn a lot. We can learn a lot from, you know, and obviously you guys are all, and there are some graduates on this call, alumni, you know, you are going to be decision makers. You are already decision makers in your organizations, etc. And I think like learning from the world and traveling to places to learn, not just to talk to them about what we are doing, is really phenomenal. And Diego, again, you've been just a terrific host. Thank you so much. This will be continued.
Well, thank you very much, Anna, Jessica, Sergio, and all of the team, and of course, everyone who's listening. Unfortunately, time's running out, but I would love to share with you maybe next time, or whenever you find it possible, one of the main initiatives that we are pursuing and moving forward, which is the self-sovereign ID, Tango ID protocol, which in our humble opinion and in our desire will help us transform Buenos Aires from a smart city into a smart community, because it integrates the social interaction in a much more efficient way and gives citizens the chance of participating and giving their opinions and deciding in a much more effective and social way. But of course, time is a tyrant, so we need to leave now. But we do believe, as I mentioned to Melanie before, we do believe that knowledge is something that is co-built with others, that we may know some things, but there are many things, or there are much more things that we don't know than the ones we do. So getting the opportunity of interacting with you guys, of seeing your visions, of listening to your opinions, and then spending time together and doing this type of projects for us is crucial, and we really love it and we really appreciate it. So we're really happy to be moving along with this.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So the final slide of those wonderful pictures for whoever is left on the call, but we're recording it. The culture, Kelly, do you want to comment on the culture?
Absolutely. And we'll wrap this up quickly, but we definitely wanted to mention this. Just the culture of Buenos Aires is so rich. We had really amazing opportunities to visit cafes and go to tango and see live music. And we found the people and the spaces and the architecture so warm and so wonderful. We had such a phenomenal time. You can see Diego is such a wonderful ambassador for the city. And so, you know, we wanted to take this all in, and what we're going to be considering as we move forward in our research is, what is the culture of the city? How does that impact the future of work, right? These are things that are intertwined. Life and work have to be intertwined to understand how people interact with technology, what is the comfortability with interacting with things like Boti, and you know, and how does technology enrich living and working and being in such a beautiful and smart city. So a city with history, but that is moving forward. Dr. Anna, would you like to
skip? Yeah, we'll skip that. Let's go to,
yeah. This is just a quick quote from Dr. Tavis and Stella's book. It's critical to not only break down jobs into skills, but also to elevate the conversation from jobs to the greater context of work and its greater social and economic purpose to meet the challenges of the coming economy. This conversation we're having right now is going to continue. So we really look forward to continuing to engage in a dialogue with all of you. And we really appreciate your time today. We know we're running tight. There are some questions I'm happy to stay on and answer. But you know, if anybody does have to go, we do want to be respectful of your time and really appreciate you joining us.
Yeah. And you know where to find us. So ping us, ask questions. And again, this has been a terrific team, and we will continue on this journey. Diego, muchas gracias to you. Anna, Dr. Anna Stahl, she was on the call as well from NYU, Buenos Aires. Thank you so much. And everyone who joined us today, thank you, and to be continued. We are kicking off the next academic year, and you guys are coming back as alumni. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.